Hey, welcome guys. We are here at the Noah's Ark Visitor Center. Come on in, I'll show you around. The first thing you'll notice, we have these big posters that explains the history of Noah's Ark, how the site was discovered by Captain Ilhan Durupinar in 1959, because they took these military photographs from high altitude that showed this boat formation, this boat shape right here, and it got the world excited. By 1960, we had Aragüler, who was a famous Turkish photographer. He rented a small plane, and they flew over the site, and you can see this really nice boat shape that's sitting out there in the mud flow. Now, if you follow me over here, I'm going to show you some of the things on why we believe this to be Noah's Ark. So the first thing is, we are in the mountains of Ararat. Now, a lot of people think that the Bible says the ark landed on the big volcano Ararat. No, it says mountains, plural, in the book of Genesis. And that's the kingdom of Urartu, which is right here. And this red dot is where we're at. So we're in the middle of this mountainous kingdom, kind of like saying the ark landed in the Rocky Mountains. So that's the first key. We're in the right location. Next, you have this boat shape. In fact, when the photogrammetry expert from Ohio State University saw this, he said that this is not natural. You can't get this type of shape in nature. So you have a boat shape, and it fits Noah's Ark. Now, some people believe the ark has to be a barge or a rectangular shaped object, and that's not what the ark means. The ark, the description talks about the functionality of holding the animals and the people through the flood, not the shape of the hull. So we believe that this boat shape fits perfectly an ancient boat that's been decaying. The other thing is it matches the size in the Bible. So we're talking about 300 royal Egyptian cubits. Now, the book of Acts says Moses was educated in Egypt. He was the prince of Egypt. And so the royal Egyptian cubit was the standard of measurement used back in that time, just like meters are today. And so this object is 515 feet long, exactly 300 royal Egyptian cubits, just what Moses wrote in the book of Genesis. And there's been different little artifacts found on the site. Back in 1991, Ron Wyatt, who did most of the research on this site in the 80s and 90s, his tour group found this fossilized rivet that has different alloys and metals in it. Very fascinating. And as you follow me to the last panel we have here, this will show you some of the underground things that have been discovered at this site. So this is the geophysical surveys. Now, the site has not been excavated. So this site, the only way we can see below the ground is using different types of technologies like GPR, which is radar, or ERT, which uses electrical resistivity to determine the shapes and size of objects below the ground. And so you can see some of the original GPR, the analog printout by Ron Wyatt and David Fasold, done in 1985. And then over here, you can see some of our, the ones we did in 2019. And this was digital, so a little more high tech. But they both, all of these radar surveys show that there are angular shapes and patterns below the ground. As you can see here, the reflections. And the guy, he was the vice president of the manufacturer for this GPR unit. And he said, these patterns are too regular. You do not find this in nature. And the archaeologist who examined our 2019 data, he said this is the best place if he were to do an excavation, he would do it right in this area, because he said you find these angular structures about 7 meters down, about 20 feet below the surface. And over here, we were finding linear patterns about 3 meters or 9 feet below the surface. So by looking into this object, we're seeing that it's just not a natural random rubble of mud and rock. You actually see other things that suggest it's a man-made object below the ground. And so we believe this is the buried remains of Noah's Ark.